Hey gaming fans, so today I have another Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile, and this one is Superheavy Samurais. So the idea behind this archetype is that you only are supposed to have monsters in your deck, and all the Superheavy Samurai monsters pretty much have their own little abilities, and a lot of them matter that there is no spells and traps in your graveyard. Now, of course, just as a caveat, this deck could fall hard to Mystic Mine. Basically, you're done. I don't know if like you'd be able to. I put one card in here that might help you get around that. But anyways, yeah. I mean, Mystic Mine would just crush this deck. But otherwise, it's a fun deck. So let's get to the build. So for the first two cards we have Superheavy Samurai Drum. So it's a tuner, which is important because you do a lot of synchro summoning in this type of deck. So if this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you could target one Superheavy Samurai monster from your graveyard, accept himself, and special summon it. So that's a neat ability, you know, definitely later on in a duel, if you summon it and for some reason it gets destroyed, or if you set it and your opponent runs it over or something, you can grab your biggest Superheavy Samurai monster from the graveyard. Other than that, you're going to use it for your tuners. Then we have one Superheavy Samurai Soulbuster Gauntlet. So a lot of the other Superheavy Samurai support cards in the deck act as kind of like equipped spells and stuff like that. So you can target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand to your side of the field. It gains 400 defense, and so they like being in defense mode a lot. So and some of them attack in defense mode. So when a defense position Superheavy Samurai monster you control battles an opponent's monster, if you have no spell and traps in your graveyard, you could send this card from your hand to the graveyard. Your battling monster's defense becomes double its original defense until the end of this turn. So that could really surprise your opponent, and you've got some Superheavy Samurais that have some really big defense in this deck. So if they think they're just going to run it over, they could end up taking a lot of damage. Then we got two Superheavy Samurai Battle Balls. This again, more tuners. If all monsters you control are Superheavy Samurai monsters and you have no spell and traps in your graveyard, you could target one face-up monster your opponent controls that has a level, send both it and this card from the field to the graveyard, then special summon from your extra deck one Superheavy Samurai monster. So basically just steals your opponent's monster to use it as synchro material. Then we have three of the Superheavy Samurai Trumpeters. Again, another tuner. It's a pretty decent card. If you have no spells if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you could special summon this card from your hand. So it's an extender. And then after this card is special summoned this way, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn, except for Superheavy Samurai monsters, which is fine because you're going to go into your synchro monsters anyway. If this card is tributed for a tribute summon of a Superheavy Samurai monster and sent to the graveyard, and you have no spell and traps in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. So it's sort of like a Treeborn Frog as well. So it gets to come back after it's used if you tribute summon. Then we have two Superheavy Samurai Soulfire Suits. Again, these are more like the equip style, I think. If you can target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand to your side of the field, and that target's level becomes 5. So it basically manipulates the level. During either player's turn, you can discard this card, then target one defense position Superheavy Samurai monster you control until the end of this turn. It loses 800 defense, but it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So this can save your Superheavy Samurais from destruction or battle, just to keep it on the field for one more turn. Then I got two Superheavy Samurai monsters in the deck in the form of Marmoting Captains. I mean, this is just a fun spot. You could replace this. I used to use a couple of different monsters in its place, but I thought it would be fun to throw this in here. So when this card's normal summon, you can shuffle one card from your hand into your deck, so something that's useless for you at this point. And then you get to draw a card, and if it's a monster, you get to special summon it, which it will be a monster because there is no spells and traps in this deck. So pretty much whatever you draw, you're going to be able to summon it. Then I got three Superheavy Samurai Flutists. So this is another interesting card. You contribute this card to special summon one Superheavy Samurai monster from your hand. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that targets a Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So really cool, kind of like a hand trap that sits in the, in the graveyard. Really cool. Then we got 2 Super Heavy Samurai Giga Gloves. So this card is, if this card is sent to the graveyard, and you have no spell and traps in your graveyard, you could look at 5 cards on the top of your deck, then place them on top of your deck in any order, which is good for certain effects that you need to know what's on top. When your opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you could banish this card from your graveyard, execute the top card of your deck, and if it's a Super Heavy Samurai monster, add it to your hand, and if you do, the attacking monster's attack becomes 0. So that could really, really hurt your opponent there. Then we got 3 Super Heavy Samurai Soul Piercers. So you could target 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand to your side of the field, and if it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck. So it gives your monsters piercing, but it also replaces itself if it gets destroyed or sent to the graveyard. Then we got 3 Super Heavy Samurai Scales. So if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. So obviously this is a great card going second. If this card is normal or special summon, you could target 1 level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai monster in your graveyard, except him, and special summon it in defense position. So you do need a little bit of a graveyard setup for that part of the effect. Then we got 3 Super Heavy Samurai Magnets. So these are when this card is normal summoned, you could special summon 1 level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand, then change this card to defense position. Monsters your opponent control cannot attack any monsters except this one. So, I mean, that secondary effect is okay. Chances are you're going to use him for synchro anyways, but it's pretty neat to have him in defense mode, and then if your opponent wants to try and attack something else, they have to get rid of him first. Then for some more non-Super Heavy Samurai monsters, I put in 2 Ice Hand, which when this card is in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card, either by battle or card effect, and sent to the graveyard. You could target 1 spell or trap they control and destroy that target. Then you can special summon 1 Fire Hand from your deck. So if they have any kind of nasty spells or traps out that you don't like, or Pendulum stuff, you can get rid of it. Obviously it's not going to work on Mystic Mind, but there's a lot of other cards that you can probably get rid of. And of course the 2 Fire Hands that they search out. So if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 monster they control and destroy that target. Again, just for some more control of the board, because you don't play any spells or traps to do that, so you need to do it with your monster effects. Then for some of the bigger Super Heavy Samurai monsters that you probably would want to special summon out, but you can tribute them also to get them out on the field. 3 Super Heavy Samurai Thief. Okay, it's getting hard to say that all the time. If you have no spell and traps in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. After this card was special summoned this way, you cannot special summon monsters this turn except for Super Heavy Samurai monsters. You can tribute this card, then activate one of these effects. Destroy 1 card in your opponent's spell and trap zone, then you can set the destroyed spell or trap to your side of the field, or destroy 1 card in your opponent's Pendulum zone, then you can place that destroyed card in your Pendulum zone. So again, it's just more control of the field, and he's a big level. I mean, it's an interesting card. Then we got Super Heavy Samurai Big Ben Kai. This one I put 1 of. You could probably run 2 of this guy as well. He's kind of fun. When this card is normal or special summon, you can change its battle position. Super Heavy Samurai monsters you control can attack while face up in defense position. So they all have a lot, well, not these guys, but a lot of them have like some pretty good defense. So, and this guy's 3,500 defense. So if he can attack, that's pretty cool. Then for the last of the cards, we have the Pendulum monsters. So this is the 8th scale. Super Heavy Samurai General Coral. So his Pendulum effect is if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, this card's Pendulum scale, if you have a spell or trap in your graveyard, his Pendulum scale becomes 4, so he becomes almost useless. Once per turn, when Super Heavy Samurai monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you could activate this effect. That monster can make a second attack. So that's pretty cool. And then his regular effect is if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you contribute up to 2 Super Heavy Samurai monsters, draw that many cards. So you can kind of get rid of some useless cards off your field to just draw. But you're also using them for your Pendulum, because you might want to start pendulum summoning some of your monsters. And then there's the Super Heavy Samurai General Jade. This is your 1 scale. You cannot pendulum summon monsters except Super Heavy Samurai monsters. This effect cannot be negated. Once per turn, you could target 1 Super Heavy Samurai you control and 1 monster. Once per turn, you can target 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, increase its level by 1. So it's pretty much your go-to, get your pendulum stuff out. And then, like, I don't know if that effect, you might want to use it. You could tribute summon this card by tributing 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can change its battle position. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. So he's got 2800 defense. Another card you'd want to get out through a pendulum summon. Now that's it for the deck. I did have a card here, and I've misplaced it. This one. So I just remembered I took it out for the last minute there. So this is Falcoat's Cannon. I originally had this in there. This would be your probably only out to something like what's it called, Mystic Mine. That's the only thing I could think of. I don't know. Maybe there's something else that someone else could suggest, but if you know your opponent's going to be playing the Mystic Mines, or if you're going to play this deck and you want to have a side deck, probably put 3 of these in there, because it turns into a pendulum card, and then it can destroy a spell or trap on the field. I mean, obviously, if someone's playing a real Mystic Mine deck, they're probably going to have the ability to pull out more, but still, it's your only out that I can think of. And on for the extra deck, we have Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow. So this is 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster. Cannot be used as link material while you have no spells and traps in your graveyard. You take no battle damage from attacks involving this card, so it's a 0 attack, but if your opponent attacks it, you're not going to take any damage. If you have no spells or traps in your graveyard, you could discard 1 monster, then target 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster from your graveyard and special summon it to a zone this card points to in defense position. So, I mean, you could, in theory, if you had your other guy out there, this guy, the Magnet, stop your opponent from actually attacking him, but otherwise, he's just going to net you a monster onto the field. Then we have 2 Super Heavy Samurai Beast Kyubi, whatever his name is. 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner Super Heavy Samurai monsters. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. If it does, apply its defense for damage calculation, so it's 2500 defense. If you have no spell and traps in your graveyard, this card gains 900 defense for each special summon monster your opponent controls. So he just gets bigger and bigger. Really cool. Then we got 2 of the Super Heavy Samurai Ogre Shitandoji. 1 machine tuner, one or more non-tuner Super Heavy Samurai monsters. This card can attack while in defense position. If it does, apply its defense. When this card is synchro summoned while you have no spell and traps in your graveyard, you could destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls. So he's kind of like a little bit of a heavy storm there. Again, not going to do anything against the Mystic Mine because his effect won't work. But other cards, or Skill Drain I should say. Skill Drain would be another problem with this deck. And then we have 1 Super Heavy Samurai Warlord Sunwulula. Machine type tuner, 1 or more non-tuner Super Heavy monsters. This card can attack while in defense position. If it does, apply its defense. Once per turn during either player's turn, if you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you could target 1 spell or trap in your opponent's graveyard, set it to your side of the field, but banish it when it leaves the field. So I guess this could also be a way to get rid of a, if your opponent has like any kind of spell and trap removal in their graveyard, like a spell, it can actually net you that card to remove. And then we have, 2 of these guys. So that's pretty much the build. I built this deck a while ago, so I was still a little bit unfamiliar with some of the effects, but it's still a fun deck. It's something you can mess around with. There's lots of cards out there that can work with it. Any monsters, like I said, that Marmitting Captain, you could pull that out and put other things in there. Anyways, that's the build. Let me know what you think. Throw some comments down below. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.